In this example, we want to sketch the graph of the function y equals x squared minus 10x plus 25. Like before, to graph a quadratic, we need to find our most important points: the y-intercept, the x-intercepts, and the vertex. Now it's worth pointing out that it doesn't matter what order we find these in, but we'll find the y-intercept first because it's the easiest. Here, we look when x equals 0. If x equals 0, then y equals 0 squared minus 10 times 0 plus 25, which is just 25. So x equals 0 and y equals 25, so the y-intercept is the point 0, 25. Now how about the x-intercept? To find the x-intercept, we look when y is 0, which gives the equation 0 equals x squared minus 10x plus 25. And how can we solve this? Like before, we can solve it using the quadratic formula. If you would like to see the steps of the quadratic formula done out, click the purple link now. Using the quadratic formula, we get that our roots are 5 and 5. Or in other words, we have the root 5 of multiplicity 2, which means that our x-intercepts are the points 5, 0, and 5, 0. In other words, we really just have one x-intercept at the point 5, 0. How about the vertex? For the vertex, we can start by finding the x value of the vertex, which we have been calling h, by using our formula h equals negative b over 2a, which is negative 10 over 2 times 1, which is 10 over 2, or 5. So the x value of the vertex is h equals 5. But what about the y value? To get the y value of the vertex k, we simply evaluate our function at the h we just found. So we evaluate our function at 5. Our function at 5 is 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 25, which comes out to 0. This shouldn't come as a surprise because in the x-intercepts, we saw that if x equals 5, y equals 0. So we get here that our vertex is also at the point 5, 0. Now, we found all of our important points, so we can start sketching our graph. To do this, we'll start by picking a good scale. Here, our biggest y value is 25, so we need to make a pretty big scale to make sure 25 is in our picture. While our biggest x value is 5, so we can pick a smaller scale for x. Now that we have our scale, let's start plotting our points, starting with that y-intercept of 0, 25. And once we have that plotted, we can plot our x-intercept at 5, 0, which is also our vertex. It's important to note that this is the vertex though, because it tells us our graph turns around at this point. In using these 2 points and our line of symmetry, we can sketch the graph on the left-hand side to pass through our y-intercept 0, 25, and then get the graph on the right-hand side by taking the mirror image. And once we have this, we now have the graph of y equals x squared minus 10x plus 25. Let's take a moment here to think about this case where we only have one x-intercept. In this example, it turned out that it was the vertex. Would that be the case in every example? Well, if our vertex was any lower, then we'd have to have 2 x-intercepts. While if our vertex was any higher, we wouldn't have any. So the case where we have a repeated root and only one x-intercept, it has to be at the vertex.